Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to Radio Free Wall Street. Oh my God, what a wild day. We're coming up into the Labor Day weekend, and things are supposed to get quiet. Markets had a nice rally. As you know, Donald Trump's announced another great victory, the best trade deal ever with Canada, and markets started celebrating it. Now, we've been hearing that Donald Trump's been, to say the least, very upset about the news lately. And in the middle of this thing, he's been trying to get a victory. And the victory he wants to get is one of this trade negotiation. It's very important to him. He put the full court press on Mexico, announced a very successful trade deal that is basically a joke, very similar to, woo, Kim Yum Nunchucks is no longer a nuclear threat because of the mind meld. And he's been really pushing very hard for a lot of things. And the markets were celebrating for the last few days this Mexico trade agreement. Short on details, but for Wall Street it doesn't make any difference because it's the headline, it's the news, it's what people want to hear. But they couldn't ignore it because as he's announcing and taking victory laps on the Mexico negotiations, the Canadian negotiations are taking place. He's given them an unrealistic deadline till Friday, and the Canadians are very, very concerned that they've got to play along, but they just don't understand what the hell's going on. But then in the middle of all this, Donald Trump now comes out and announces to the White House staff to prepare sanctions on $250 billion of Chinese imports. We go, what the hell is going on here? And people are very confused. And the story is that the rumors started hitting Wall Street about this, and then the VIX indicator started popping for the first time in months, and people are all of a sudden saying, well, wait a minute, what? We're supposed to be into this situation where Donald Trump's got this trade situation under control, and it turns out it may not be the case. When the markets figured out that there was not going to be those great trade negotiations spilling all over the world from Mexico to Canada, from Canada to Europe, and yes, even China, markets stood back and said, well, what is going on here? What the F? Well, they then took the bid out of the market, and all of a sudden this big stock market rally got stopped dead in its tracks. S&P 500 down 12 points, NASDAQ down 21 points, Dow down 137 points. The bids left the market. People are starting to cover a little bit in the VIX, and all of a sudden, Donald Trump is on this incredible twit shit storm. Now, the side you're hearing is Donald Trump is actually questioning CNN, ABC, NBC, CBS. In an early morning twit storm, claimed that CNN's hatred and extreme bias against him has made them unable to function. And people are just sitting back going, wait a minute, what the hell's going on here? In the White House, he was questioning if he had the ability as president to sign executive orders to censor the media. And people were actually saying, what? It turns out that Donald Trump in his twit storm went on after attacking CNN, NBC, concluded by claiming that fake books that all, and here's the statement that has got people very concerned. Donald Trump declared that all media are the enemy of the people. He said, oh my God, the president is on a roll. So we went ahead, we started checking, and evidently the story is this. The White House is being rocked by White House counsel, one of the original guys down there, by the way, who is resigning. It turns out this was the go-to guy that a lot of people that had to testify were going to and making arrangements for help with their legal bills. Now, all of a sudden, the attitude of the White House is every man for himself. The White House has not been the same, and you probably have noticed that the press conference is a lot more vague, and I don't know, and I'll get back to you. And the reason why is all of a sudden the employees are realizing that, they're part of the cover-up, and they have liability. And now that so many key insiders are testifying, the White House staff is carefully considering their position and their options. Donald Trump, on the other hand, has had the shitstorm week where he's just trying to bomb the news and bomb the news and bomb the news, attack the press, attack the press, attack the press. Unfortunately, we are in a grave situation. Now, it started out when we got the statement from Cohen, who said that, he was very concerned about Donald Trump and the presidency and very much worried about Donald Trump. And he said that to his attorney. And Donald Trump, you might remember, warned evangelical leaders that violence if GOP loses midterms. Oh, my God. And Donald Trump pressured Canada on trade negotiations with an unrealistic deadline. And all of a sudden, then he announced the incredible trade deal with Mexico. Short on details, as we're taking it apart, it's a joke. And now it turns out that Donald Trump is moving into the crazy zone. And people are very, very concerned. And by the way, Cohen's attorney said this. Cohen thinks Trump is a danger to the United States of America. And people are now starting to put the pieces together saying, well, what exactly going into this? And people are starting to question the stability of the president and starting to question what he's doing. His latest twit tirade has got people's attention because he's now attacking the press in very aggressive ways. He's actually talking about putting sanctions against the free press. Now, he also added to that he would pull out of the World Trade Organization if it doesn't treat the U.S. better. And if they don't shape up, I withdraw from the World Trade Organization. And that was with an interview with Bloomberg News inside the Oval Office. And people are absolutely wondering, what are we dealing with Donald Trump? And the answer is, this is a guy who's flipping his lid. Now, I want to explain this to you. We're at a very dangerous point, and we're very much concerned about what Trump would do, as I point out to the wounded lion phenomena, with his back up against the wall. And he's coming out fighting. And he is attacking the World Trade Organization. He's attacking the Chinese. He is, absolutely, positively on this out-of-control view of a world that shows that, we got a paranoid schizophrenic sitting in the Oval Office with the football. Now, I'm going to say this again. I really want you to hear me. Donald Trump is out of control. Donald Trump does not know where he's going, what he's doing. He doesn't know where things will end up, and he is acting irrationally. Now, I want to be very clear here. Before I decided to go down this road, I decided to make some calls. And the unspoken story is that the White House is half the time therapy sessions and encounter groups trying to systematically keep Donald Trump from flipping the lid, trying to keep the craziness down. And I can tell you the staff is very concerned about what they regard as an unstable president, really the wheels are off the coach. Now, we have felt for some time that there was just something very wrong with Trump, and that he just doesn't understand, what his job is. He doesn't understand what he's doing. He doesn't understand where he's going. And people are affirming that they're worried about his questions about using executive power to silence the press. In other words, he's very much considering many different tools. One is, he's been attacking CNN and Stop the Merger. And what's going on now is that is attacking organizations. They are inconsistent. One minute he's talking about trying to come to negotiations with the Chinese on trade, and then he's asking for a list of sanctions. And what's happening is, both inside the administration and inside the halls of power around the world, no one understands where he's at, what our policies really are, where he's going. And people are becoming more concerned about Donald Trump and this crazy shit by the day. So much so that the questions of Donald Trump's sanity that were mere whispers are now being heard in open conversations as people try to assess exactly what's going on with this guy. Now, I am of the opinion that Donald Trump is hitting a low point as the polling looks uglier, as the fake news, according to his opinion, scores more and more hits on him. As more and more of his people go down, Donald Trump is absolutely becoming a danger to America. Now, let me repeat that. We believe the President of the United States is very unstable. And the question is, how far will he go? And the twit storm keeps coming. Donald Trump keeps attacking the press with more ferocity. And he's making claims that are more outrageous as time goes on. And people are very much questioning what he will do. Now, as you know, we are setting up a lot of trades based on the Trump White House meltdown. We believe the economy is not the great forward thriving monster example of how tax cuts are making things work in the Laffer curve. And people are in a euphoria in a stock market that will end very badly. Now, you see how fragile this rally is. As soon as the story of Donald Trump's requesting the White House staff to start preparing sanctions against China, the market turned around and reversed its rally. It was going to close at another record high, and that's not going to happen now. And the question is, where does this end up? You need to be very concerned between now and the elections about what Donald Trump will do. The next concern is if the midterm elections go badly, what will happen? And I repeat to you that I believe Donald Trump is capable of anything. His attack on the free press is now out of control, and his twit storms are getting more and more aggressive. But behind the scenes, Donald Trump is questioning what he can do to silence the press, to shape opinion, to influence the narrative using his presidential powers. I like that shit. And people are now wondering exactly what's going to come out of the White House from a Donald Trump who is in the twilight zone, who mentally doesn't have grasp of what's going on, who is being consumed by the headlines. We understand that Donald Trump is spending most of his day now watching media. And he is outraged as more and more stories come out of both Washington and New York about the investigations. We understand that every news report that's critical from him is responded with a tirade. And that, we basically have a media president who does not understand he's not doing a reality TV show. He's not having a ratings situation. He really regards his problems as one of getting control of the media and stopping the bad press, okay? And he's now voiced a situation that, if he can control the press between now and the elections, that he can stop the fake news from costing him the House and the Senate. People are now openly questioning whether or not Donald Trump is sane. And they're actually preparing a Mueller probe counter report where they will attack the probe, and that is being moved to an effectively. What's going on is that they know the release is coming, and Donald Trump, I believe, has to have cover, because what he's going to do next is we believe that he is going to force the probe to stop. He's going to fire the Attorney General. He's going to shut down the investigation, declare it fake news, and then do his best to stand the media heat. And people are again voicing real concern about where Donald Trump is going with this thing. Now, I've got to tell you that as we've been watching the White House, we walk away with a great fear about what Donald Trump will do next. People just do not understand where he's going. They don't understand what he's doing. They don't understand where this ends up, because these are people that believe in the White House, believe in the president, and believe that all good things will come. The problem, good things are not coming out of this White House, and the attacks become more aggressive and more vile, and more people are really questioning the insanity of this man. See, let me explain. I believe this is being set up for a major publicity stunt on many fronts before the elections. And I believe that he needs something that'll be headline-grabbing and showing that Donald Trump has got to stand up to the deep state conspiracy that's trying to destroy his great work. And when you get down to it, I mean, where is his vulnerability? Well, his big problem is not so much CNN News, not so much all this fake news that he's screaming about. Where he becomes extremely vulnerable is the Mueller report. I mean, this thing's going to be very damning, and people that are getting an idea of this thing understand that, you know, he has a huge problem here, because they are looking at subpoenaing him. One of the things that brought the tirades to a head this week was a report that they are looking very seriously about subpoenaing the President of the United States and forcing him to testify before a grand jury. And I can tell you that's the last place that he wants to be. So they are now preparing what they're calling a counter report. And the fighting is like this. They're hoping that maybe talk of this counter report will stop what is the thing that is bringing Donald Trump absolutely unglued. And that is the fact that they're talking about subpoenaing the President of the United States. And they want to bring him before a grand jury or before his special counsel lawyers and go ahead and put the kebabs on Donald Trump and get him to start running at his mouth. The belief is that although it's politically risky, that Donald Trump will step on his great big foot in this thing, and that it could be a big score for them. So the idea is that if it comes down to this, they may have nothing to lose, and they may just go ahead, listen to this, and just fire the entire FBI apparatus, or the entire probe, and end this once and for all. And like I said, people I've talked to are very concerned about Trump and very concerned about him going off the deep end. So much so that the reports I'm hearing is that he may simultaneously try to pull off some kind of crackdown on the fake news. Now, the First Amendment right of the freedom of the press is sanctimonious in the U.S., but I can tell you, having been subject to a prior restraint and court orders on publishing for years, where they've attacked us as not being a publication, which is ridiculous, the free press rights are being lessened, and that is being institutionalized in government. Remember, the first thing a dictator does is he gets rid of the press. He kills the media, okay? I mean, you realize the life expectancy of a lawyer that says something bad about Putin in Moscow, I mean, life expectancy is like 0. And reporters that report on the drug cartels and their connections to government in Mexico, bye-bye, you're done, you're toast, you're dead meat. So this is not so far out of the realm of possibility. And you need to understand that we are very concerned, and I want to be very clear here, I'm very concerned about some crazy shit that Donald Trump's going to pull between now and the elections. I think he's the most dangerous he's ever been at these times. And I just, I have to tell you, we sit here every day astonished by, the next crazy shit he hands out. And over again, Donald Trump is just attacking the media. And almost to the point of where it looks to me like, he's really interested in making sure that the free press doesn't operate. And he believes, and I want to be very clear, we believe that he believes, Donald Trump believes in his heart and his soul, that he is being attacked by the deep state conspiracy, and that he believes that he's going to have to be on a one-man crusade to stop them, and he believes that he has no choice, okay? Now, this will also coincide with Donald Trump having to face this subpoena I'm telling you about. And my understanding is that this is a very serious threat to the president, and he regards it as such. And they're trying to question about where they should go with this thing. Now, I have to tell you that it's one of these games of chicken going on here. And I'm afraid that Donald Trump is going to resolve his problem by doing something crazy, off the wall, unconventional, and then rely upon the deep state conspiracy, asking his base to come support him, race baiting. I mean, it just doesn't end with what this man's going to do. And you need to be very concerned. We could be facing a situation where Donald Trump falls off, the wheels fall off the cart, and he crashes and burns. We are seeing him not responding well to pressure, okay? I'm very, very concerned. I really seriously think that Donald Trump is capable of doing anything, and I'm really very sincerely concerned about this craziness that keeps cropping up. I mean, he is absolutely livid that he is this poor guy who's never told a lie, never done anything wrong, who's being attacked by the fake media. And, these conspiracy theories have gone his brain. Look, you remember all that about Obama's birth certificate and all that? So he's a guy who embraces this kind of thing. And the information we have is that he really believes in order to survive, he has to do something crazy, off the wall, mind-boggling publicity stunt that, captivates the media, captivates the headlines, gets him to be the center of attention and not the great crimes he's committed. And at some point that this all comes to conclude, you're going to wake up and wonder where your freedoms are. I'm going to repeat that again. You could see a scenario where, as we move up to the elections, you wake up one day and wonder, well, where is the press? And where is our freedoms? Freedom is a very delicate thing. And people who feel like they are victims of media attacks, and Donald Trump definitely feels like that.
The New York Times reporting that Donald Trump and his former personal attorney Michael Cohen once discussed a plan to buy all stories the National Enquirer had collected on Trump, going back to the 1980s. That discussion was strongly hinted at in a secret audio recording made by Cohen and released exclusively to CNN by his lawyers in July.
It's all the stuff. All the stuff.
On that tape, Trump and Cohen heard discussing setting up a payment system to American Media Inc., the National Enquirer's parent company.
I need to open up a company for the transfer of all of that info regarding our friend David.
David is David Pecker, the head of AMI. Pecker had a cozy relationship with Trump, and to protect him, Pecker would dig up the dirt on Trump, often paying for the stories, and then bury them in a practice called catch and kill. The Associated Press reports unsavory stories were kept in a safe at AMI. And according to the New York Times, that safe contained decades of material on Trump, like his marital woes and lawsuits, lists of sensitive sources, and tips about alleged affairs. Cohen and Trump even discussed a backup plan just in case Pecker, the holder of the secrets, was no longer around.
It's all the stuff, because, you never know where that company, you never know what he's going to be. Correct.
Trump and Cohen also mentioned Trump Organization CFO Alan Weisselberg in their plans to pay for the information.
And I've spoken to Alan Weisselberg about how to set the whole thing up with funding.
The Times reports that Trump never did buy all of the stories from AMI. But in his guilty plea last week, Cohen admitted to working to buy the silence of Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal, two women who alleged affairs with Trump. Cohen also said the payments were directed by then-candidate Donald Trump. Trump denies those affairs. Both Pecker and Weisselberg helped the government with its case against Cohen in exchange for immunity. With the immunity deals, it's unclear what other secrets they may now be sharing with federal prosecutors.
Yeah, I thought I'd like to play that snippet for you and have you understand that this is part of Trump's orientation, okay? This guy is really out of control, and he really believes that he's a victim. Now, the safe that they're talking about in that interview contains the stories that were silenced. Now, I can tell you that some reporters that had stories that wanted them to be published were told that the legal department had held them off, and that's why they didn't print the stories. And I can tell you that they were outraged. There's nothing you can do about it. So the question's got to be, where is Trump going with all this, and how does this end up? And the answer is, we don't really know. All I can tell you is that the information we have over and over again is reporting that Donald Trump is absolutely livid, and it's this kind of information that keeps coming forward that makes this guy really, really off the deep end. Again, I want to be very clear here. We're very, very concerned about the elections coming up. We've said so for quite a while. And we become more concerned as time goes on about where Trump goes in all this. And we feel like that we got a president that is capable of doing anything. These attacks on the press that are now systematic are raising eyebrows of many people. And the concern, again, is, Donald Trump used this to try to get the heat off him. And we're of the opinion that if a subpoena comes, then he'll declare fake news. They will use their counter report and then use that as an excuse to fire the special prosecutor and end this investigation. And we now will have a constitutional dilemma. And we now will have a president that has little to lose. See, my fear about Donald Trump is that when he realizes he's going down and he realizes that the prosecution is real and that they really have the goods on him, then he becomes a man that has nothing to lose. And then things will rapidly escalate at that point to where all of a sudden, who knows where the hell Donald Trump goes, what he does, how he does it. Again, I'm going to repeat, this is a guy who's capable of anything, and this is a man who's becoming very desperate. He doesn't have any grasp of the Constitution. He doesn't have any grasp of a democracy or the rule of law. That is not how he looks at things. He's probably the most dangerous president we've ever had from a standpoint that he's not a politician. He's not a lawyer. He's just a real estate mob boss from New York. And you buy silence, as you're hearing. You make bribes. You force people to do things they don't want to do. You make sure your crimes are hidden, no matter how you got to go about doing that. And that means he has no respect for the law or the Constitution of the United States. Now, wait, you realize we're talking about the President of the United States here. I mean, this is a very important figure on the world stage. He continually demonstrates that he has no understanding of what it is to be president, nor does he care. And he feels like he can do whatever he wants whenever he wants, and demanding loyalty, as you've heard. And he actually regards his problem as the fake news and the free press, and he regards him having no right of reporting any of his actions, none of his malfeasance, and that he clearly has a right to stop it. And we believe that executive action is where he's going with this thing, by executive order. And like I said, we're very, very concerned. We're also concerned by the twit storms that are getting, more out in left field. And, he's actually going crazy. And we understand that he is asking serious inquiries about what he can do by executive order. Now, our feeling is that the way this comes down is that as we get closer to the elections, everyone's obviously waiting for the great surprise, right? I mean, that's just how politics works. And there are surprises in the works, okay? And then we think that might be the trigger for Donald Trump to do something crazy. So you now understand that we regard Donald Trump as a grave danger to the freedom of America. And I can tell you that Cohen also expressed that. They're very concerned that, I guess there must have been some conversations that really drove Cohen away from the president and drove him into the waiting arms of the prosecutor. Now, there's no need to understand that. Donald Trump is not a man to be trifled with. And Cohen at some point came to the realization that Donald Trump has to be stopped. He did not roll over. There's something else that's not being told about this, and we're following the stories, that he did not get protection on everything, okay? And Cohen, has vast amounts of information that he's releasing to prosecutors without a deal, without any promises, and that he's coming clean and bearing his soul. I understand there are extensive interviews, and Cohen seems to be a key to a lot of this. And as a result of Cohen's revelation of what he knows, many other people in the Trump sphere of influence are coming forward. They're cutting deals. And we're at the stage now where things are spinning out of control. And we believe that Donald Trump knows that. And we believe that is why he's so irrational. Okay? So now that you understand this, you need to understand that it's time for maximum protection. There will be huge gyrations in the stock and commodity markets, the dollar, just as day after day Donald Trump does something crazy. We're believing that he's going to use his power as President of the United States to absolutely make sure that he controls the media, and that he's the guy that's telling the story. He's the guy that's in the headlines. He's the guy that's making things happen, okay? And Donald Trump has a trade agenda that is not based on free trade of the United States of America, I'm convinced, but strictly based on making sure that Donald Trump is in the news, controlling the agenda, part of the narrative, making sure that Donald Trump's voice drowns out all others. And we see this as a growing threat. So, I urge you to position yourself to be protected from Donald Trump's insanity. I urge you to make sure that you're protected. And I would say on the other side of this thing, some of the greatest trading opportunities ever are going to be coming out as Donald Trump implodes. We regard his presidency as in grave danger, and we believe that he will be impeached or forced to resign, but not without constitutional crises and confrontations like never seen before in America. So Donald Trump's going to go down, but it's going to be with a huge, ugly fight. And some of the things he does will threaten the very democracy of America. And I think you should know that, and I think you should understand it. I think you should embrace it. And realize that Donald Trump regards himself as above the law. And he really believes that he's dictator-in-chief. I mean, he really believes that it's his country to do what he wants. And we believe that the rule of law means nothing to this man. And we want you to know that we think it's going to end very, very badly. So, to recap, we think Donald Trump's out of control. We think he's blown a gasket. We think he is capable in the coming weeks of doing anything. And we also understand that the special prosecutor is homing in on him. And Donald Trump is preparing for what we believe will be a huge constitutional crisis. And this will affect the market, the stock market. It will affect the economy. And God only knows where it goes from there.